I used to be ashamed of my past and unsure if I'd make it to where I was going. But I knew one thing was for certain. We don't end up where we're going on accident. I've also learned that we can't erase the past or hide from it, but we can learn from it and pass it on to others. So who am I? I'm the definition of a bootstrap girl. Someone who's made the hard choices to pick themselves back up and make something of themselves. And I'm not the only one. My name is Denisha. I'm a mom, a wife, a professor, advocate, queen of my own path, who's overcome abuse, foster care, homelessness, and raising 5 siblings on my own at the age of 24. And eventually I got a PhD. But something that I learned is that I don't know everything. So here on my show, we're going to be bringing in people who know the things that we don't know. Let's get in and learn on the Dr. Denisha Keating Show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Denisha Keating Show. I am so excited to be here with you on the National Day of Quitters Day after New Year's resolution. True story. Most people will quit their New Year's resolution on the second Friday of January every single year. They literally call this Quitter's Day because what tends to happen is that people start to really be into the new year, and it's a new year, new me, and they go 10 days in or 9 days in or however many Fridays or 2 Fridays in of the new year, and then they go, never mind. Because what happens is that oftentimes we set an example of what we set it and we write it down, and we're kind of like, I really want this and I really want to thrive and I really want the best. And I do believe that there are times that we really want the best for ourselves in a brand new year. We want to have, maybe it's a business, maybe it's a mindset, maybe it's losing weight. And I know for a lot of us, it is getting healthy and having the ability to move without pain. And for some of us, it's maybe our business growth. But what we think is that the motivation is going to keep us going. And here's the motivation, but the dedication's back here. And me and my husband were talking about this. We went away for a couple of days and we were walking around and we were talking about what it was like in the beginning of stages of me starting a business and coaching. During 2020, I had lost my job, took a huge ego hit for that. Didn't know what I was supposed to do at that point. I had been in my dream job that I had been working for so long and so hard to get there. And then all of a sudden it was just like ripped out from underneath me with no warning. I actually was told at the time that I was safe, that they had no plans of getting rid of me during the layoff, and that they asked me not to apply anywhere. And then it turned out that I was on the chopping block. And so I had to make a decision. First was just to get employment. And I had been looking in the field that I had been working in and nothing was coming in. This was also during the middle of the shutdown. So that explains a lot to why, but I ended up having to move to different fields. And then we just weren't making it financially. Me and my husband were Ubering. We're doing Postmates, what it was called at the time, but basically Ubering food to people's houses. And we did the hard work to make sure that our bills were being paid. And we were talking about how it was really honestly degrading in a sense, because we were just like, it's not where we want to be, but we were willing to do the hard work to stay afloat. And then I got this wild idea to start a business coaching students, because that's what I was already doing in a sense of in the field I was at. I was coaching students through their goals and making sure that they were able to get there and holding them accountable and doing all of that. I'd been doing that for a really long time, and I decided to do it on my own. And I had no idea if it was going to work or not. But there have been a lot of times over the last 4 years now where the motivation was not always there. And I'm going to be honest, but I had to have the dedication, not just for myself, not because I was paying a bill, but because of the people who were sitting on the other side waiting for what I had to offer them. There were days that I didn't have any energy at all or any motivation to do it, but I knew that I had to. I have this really high ability to push through, but those days were I didn't have that, and I had to rely on accountability of my husband to be like, hey, you got to do this. I had to rely on using integrity, but also knowing that somebody else was waiting for what I had for them, and I had to get that to them regardless of how I felt. And so we're actually going to be having him on the podcast because I want to bring you to that table talk conversation with my husband of how he helps keep me accountable, but also how we dream, how we go big, how do we talk through some of the things that we're wanting to do for every single year. What does that conversation look like when you're bringing somebody else into the conversation that you trust enough to tell you hey, this is a really bad idea, or hey, this is a really good idea, but how are we going to execute this? And let's talk through this. So I want to bring him on in the next episode. We're going to be really digging into this because that is a table talk conversation that I don't think a lot of people get to have. And so I want to bring you into how to have that successfully to actually set you up. And one of the things that we actually talked about is I'm always I'm really glad, he says it, he's my blue tape. So if you don't know, if you don't know that story, I like to paint without taping the walls. It's kind of a thing. And really what it is like in my head, I'm like, I just got to get this done. I just got to go. And then I just put the paint on the wall and I don't put the blue tape to say, okay, this is where you don't want to get. And then what it actually ends up doing is making the wall on the ceiling or the floor look really bad. And then I'm like, whatever. And he's just like, hey, there's like a massive paint spot in a place that it shouldn't be. And he is my blue tape. He is the person that I can go and be like, this is so cool, or it's a really good idea. And he's like, it is a good idea. Or no, that's actually not as executed out as you think it would be, but let's work on this. Let's look at this. Let's see what this would look like. And that has really, really helped. Now, when we get to this National Day of Quitting on the second Friday of every January, I think really what people are hoping for is there's like this excitement for the new year. There's this excitement that it's a brand new year. I can have a brand new me. I can have a different year. And then we realize we don't have the motivation to get through to that. And we really do lack the dedication to get there. And now I see this in a sense of how I coach a lot of people in two different areas. The first area is doctoral students. The second area is people who want to be motivational speakers or speakers and authors. And I have this conversation on both sides where it's just like, hey, you have to put the time in. They're like, well, I am. I'm like, okay, but are you putting the time in and the screen is blinking at you when you're sitting in Word waiting to have those words come to you? Or are you saying, okay, today I'm going to have a goal of 2 pages? It would be the same as working out. Is like, if I am like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. It's like, okay, what time are you going to go to the gym? Or what time are you going to do your workout? What time is this going to happen at? Versus just saying, I'm going to go. Like, okay, I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm a calendar guru. I love calendars, but let me tell you, my workout I'm going to show you how about this is, you guys. Okay, so on my calendar every single day, I have this really cute thing called workout. Ta-da-da-da. You can probably see that, probably not see that. But on my calendar, I literally have a blocked out time for working out. Do you want to know when the last time I worked out was? I don't even remember. Like, going to be honest. Like, I've had that there for like a year and it's still there and it's a placeholder. But what I have not actually done is said, I'm gonna do it. Like, I get to that moment every single day where I'm like, I should work out. I should walk. I should do this. And I don't do it because inside there is not that determination. It's not the skill built in me to say, I have to do this. But there is somebody I follow. Her name is Jasmine Star. And I love that she says this. She will post every single day where she's like, I didn't want to do it. Glad I did. And I need to get to that point of pushing through the lack of motivation and saying, I need to focus on my determination. Why am I working out? Why am I going to do this? Why am I going to try to be an entrepreneur in a business sense of like trying to find speaking events or put my book out there or have a business of like a realtor or something like that, where I have to oftentimes push through the lack of motivation and focus on the dedication of what I do and why I do what I do. And so me and my husband were talking about those early days where it was like, man, it was rough Ubering. It was rough, like physically draining after working a full-time job and then being in school and then going and delivering food. But what it did was it paid the bills. And now on this side of things, where it's like we go on a vacation in the middle of a work week and I work from a laptop, it's not what I dreamed of 4 years ago. I couldn't dream that big and be like, wow, like I had multiple clients come in and book things out of nowhere, but it was because of the dedication that I had been putting my name out there weeks before, months before, a year before for some of them. And now they're coming back and being like, hey, I'm going to come and get the service because I'm ready. That intertwining of success with determination over the last 4 years is what really, really, really got me to a day where I'm sitting on a vacation and being like, oh, money's coming in, like not having to stress over it, not being crazy over it, not being like, oh, I have to pivot. Now, what I want to talk about is that there's this situation where we have dedication. Okay. We oftentimes lack the motivation. We have to focus on the dedication. But what we do as an entrepreneur is that what we do is instead of pivoting, what we do is we jump ship. So what I mean by that is, and it might sound super simple and it might be super simple, but I think there's somebody who's going to be me 4 years ago that I want to talk to, is that when we start out on this idea, it is great to think about making $1 million. It would be like, oh, that would be a dream to make $100,000 a year. That would be a dream to make $55,000 a year and do this full time. That would be my dream. But then what happens is like 3 weeks go by, 4 weeks go by, and we haven't put our name out there at all. We haven't even thought of what our business model is going to be. We just hear something from somebody else. We're like, wow, what they do is really cool. I'm going to go copy and paste that. I'm going to go do it. But we lack the dedication to the mission of what we're actually going to go do. And I hear this from a lot of people that I coach, if it's from a doctoral student or if it's someone who's a speaker and author starting out on this journey, is that they really are just like, well, I just don't want to do it. And I'm like, I get that. Like, honestly, there are days and I'm like, I don't want to do it, but I have to, because there's a commitment that I made to this particular thing and the person on the other side that I'm making a commitment to. And sometimes it's not a client on the other side that you're making the dedication to, it's yourself. Sometimes it's you, it's the future you. And early on in my education journey, one of my professors actually said, he's like, look, 10 years is going to come and go. And here's the thing, you're either going to do it or you're not. Like, it's going to come and go. The time's going to pass anyway. Why not do it now? And he told me, he's like, look, I know life. So he knew the situation that I was in of like being homeless. And then like he had followed my journey a little bit. I had him multiple times from my bachelor's and my master's class, actually. And he then knew that I took in my siblings. And he's like, I'm really proud that you didn't just stop. And even though you don't have the motivation to do your papers, even though you don't have the motivation to want to be in school right now because you have the kids and like, or you have a job or you're like struggling, the dedication you have, you're going to be proud of that in 10, 15 years. And so it's not anything special that I did to get through quickly through my master's. It took me 8 years to get my bachelor's done, a year to get my master's done, 3.5 years to get my PhD done. I worked my tush off to get there. I really, really have. And I didn't have a lot of book smarts. I wasn't very intelligent. I could write kinda. I was dedicated, and it wasn't just like I was dedicated to the process. I was determined to get past the process. I was dedicated to the end goal, to say, you know what, I'm going to do what it takes forever, as long as it takes. Even if I fail, I got to get back up and try again. And that's the part of like being an entrepreneur. Like, you can be successful at anything that you put your head to, is because you're willing to say, you know what, I don't know everything. I will fail. I will fall on my face, and I'm going to get back up, reevaluate, and try again. That's pivoting. That's where you sit down and you go, okay, I'm going to pivot what my focus is on. Maybe today I didn't get any business. Maybe it's been 6 months. I haven't gotten any business, but I'm going to still put my name out there, and I'm still going to try, but I'm going to try something different. So I'm not doing the same thing over and over and over again, because they say doing the same thing every day over and over again, just doing the same thing and expecting different results, is actually a definition of insanity. So when you're like, okay, this didn't work, let me pivot, let me try this email didn't work, this one bounced back, maybe it's too long, maybe I need to shorten it up, maybe I need to do this, maybe I need to get coached from someone to figure out what I'm doing wrong. Maybe my like, I don't have a funnel or sales funnel, or maybe I don't, like, maybe I'm not getting speaking events because I'm not putting my name out there, because I just keep posting it in on social media hoping that somebody will see it. So is everybody else posting on social media. But pivot how you do what you do. Ask people how they're doing what they do until you find an answer, because some people won't know, because maybe they outsource that stuff. But pivot to try again. And really, it comes down to that mentality that I follow with so many people who have said this, like, didn't want to do it. I had no motivation, I had no energy, but I got up and I did it anyway. Because you're going to end up eventually ending up at that end goal, even if that means you had to fall on your face 1,000 times and get back up, and then you finally made it 5 years later. But when we jump ship, this other side, when we are just trying to run at a dollar bill, when we're trying to run at everybody else's success, we're never going to be content with what we find. And I'm going to be honest, like, when I see people who are, maybe they're starting out on their business journey, or maybe that's an advocate, or maybe, like, let's just break it down to somebody who is just trying to figure out where their special niche is. I see it happen all the time. Their Instagram handle changes, their Facebook name changes, their profile on their LinkedIn changes, the description of what they do changes. And it's almost like clockwork. Every single 30 days is, okay, this didn't work for 30 to 60 days. Now I'm going to try a different field and try again. Okay, my focus is going to be these kind of people over here and not these kind of people over here. And it's interesting, because when you find something that works for you, there's this purpose and passion that come into it. And you're going to really, this is where I find, like, when you know what you can do and you know there's people out there who want it, you have to go out and present the value to someone who's sitting in front of you. But when you go into that with, like, you need me, and then somebody else gets it and you're like, well, why am I doing this anymore? You will 100% probably fail every single time you put yourself out there, because you're like, what's the point? Why should I keep doing this? It's not going to happen for me. you have to go out there and say, maybe today's my chance. And I'm going to be honest, there are multiple times, like, I don't share as all of the rejection stuff that I've received, the rejection emails, people saying like, hey, you don't deserve to be where you're at. I don't share all of that because it's not important. Like, it's not important for people to say you're only where you're at because you're young, because your parents, because all the other reasons that they've said, like, because you're a female, people had pity on you because of your story and they helped you. And it's like, actually, a lot of people didn't know my story until recently. But it is one of those things that I have to sit back at and realize that it's more of a projection on that person than it is about me at all. Like, it's actually not about me at all. It's that person just feeling like, well, you're winning because I'm not. When you go into a conversation with that and you say, like, for example, if you say, well, that person's pretty or that person is young, that's why they got the opportunity. You're already messing up your chances, because what you're doing is you're going to talk yourself out of every single thing that you are going to do. That's what it is. Maybe that person got the position, or maybe that person got their speaking role, or maybe that person got their book deal or whatever because of the work that they put in that you are not seeing. Maybe they sent 100 emails. Maybe they have been working and being dedicated, not motivated, but dedicated to this process for the last year. And they're just now seeing the fruit of their labor from the last 12 months. Sure, maybe somebody started out, maybe they got super lucky in timing. Maybe they're not lucky. Maybe it's not easy for them, but maybe it was the timing. They knew their season. And that's why they got the speaking events for that particular year. And you did not. Maybe you're not even putting yourself out there. Maybe you're not. Like, maybe they used a PR team. Maybe you're not. I don't know. But what I do know is that when you look at someone who is like dedicated, you're going to be like, wow, it comes easy to them. They're just fearless. They're going to, like, people tell me that sometimes. They're like, Denisha, you're just fearless. You're putting your name out there. You don't care what people think. I'm like, you don't see the behind the scenes. You don't see the nights of tears. You don't see the situations where I'm like, man, that person just said a really rude thing to me. I'm going to keep my mouth shut for a second because I'm not going to be very nice in this. But also, you don't see the conversations that I'm having with other people, the relationships that I'm building with other people. You don't see the time and effort that I've put in the last 12 months to get to where I'm at today. And that's the thing, is that's my dedication. I don't always have the motivation to message people and say, I would love to come to your speaking event. I would love to be on your podcast. I would love to be at your event next year. People don't see that. They don't, because I don't put it out there. But if I showed you my daily schedule, you'd be like, oh my God. And I actually showed a few people and they were just like, well, how did you do this? And I was like, here's what I did in my calendar. Here's what I did for the day. And they're like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I break my day up. And they're like, then you have a two-year-old. I'm like, yeah. And then my husband and I do this together. Like, oh, that's so sweet that he supports you. And it's like, yes, that is sweet that he supports us. But we are constantly talking about these opportunities and talking about what we can do together on this. And I bring him into those conversations. And I have to listen when he says the blue tape. Like, I have to, because there's times that I actually have screwed myself over because I did not listen to advice and I got myself in a pickle. And that's where the dedication sometimes is. I get excited about the opportunity that I miss. I have an idea of what it's going to look like, but the other person does not match that idea. And so I don't ask the right questions, and I think it's going to be a really good opportunity, and then that falls through, and it's really disappointing. But the dedication is, what is my mission? What is my goal? Is my mission just to get a dollar bill? Because if it is, then I can go Uber, I can work at a Starbucks, I can go do those things. And those, we were talking about this too, is like, those are jobs that are honorable. Like, we really do look at like a customer service role, and we say like, I would never do that role because like it's degrading and it's below me or beneath me. And it's like, actually, no, it's not. Those roles gave me every single skill that I have used today in my business, from customer service to learning about Excel to pivot tables, like literally like all the jobs I've had. And it's kind of interesting because there's been a lot of times over the last 4 years that I'm like, that one job that I worked at Del Taco that I really didn't think was going to matter. I was like, oh my gosh, like I literally used that skill that I learned when I was there for like 6 months. And that was not something that I could just pass to another job. There's transferable skills that happen. But am I willing to pivot to understand and then think about that and be like able to use that skill? That's the hard part. Am I pivoting, or am I just jumping ship? Am I going to just jump ship? And I'm going to tell you, like, the first couple months that I had started my business in March, but I didn't get my first real client until June. So April, May, June, that's 3 months. And that was me putting myself out there every single day in multiple groups, offering my services, and not just my services, but offering advice, giving helpful tips, putting my name down, and just like someone asked a question, I would answer back. Same with coaching with authors and speakers. Is like I have done a lot of things where people have asked me and I give them information, because it's not, for me, I'm not trying to withhold information to help somebody else be successful. I'm not afraid of them. Like it would kind of, so yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm just gonna be honest. If I were to help somebody and they go further than me, I'm like, at first I'm like, cool. And then be like, wait, what am I doing wrong? Like, how did they pass me up? Like there is that moment, and that's an insecurity that I have to deal with, not that other person. But it is actually really cool. At first, it was kind of like, dang, like that could have been my opportunity. But now it's turned into like, do you know how cool it is to watch someone be able to go find their purpose and live in their purpose because you just gave them information and they thrived in it? It is really, really cool. And what I have found is that when that has happened, that person has reached back out and been like, hey, I want to take you with me, and I want you to come with me, and I want you to put your name down. And one of they started off as one of my students, and then they graduated, and then they asked about a conference, and then like a speaking event, and like money, and like all that other stuff, and like, hey, how did you do this? How'd you navigate that? And I gave this information freely to him. And then he called me and he's like, hey, you should put your name down for this conference too. And because of that, I was able to put my application in time and got selected, because he was willing to give me information. And it just became this thing. It was like, I didn't give him anything of extreme, like, okay, you have to pay me for all this stuff. But it was something where it was just like, hey, this is how I'm navigating this too. Let me know if it works for you. And it did. And then he was like, hey, I want to extend this invitation. And that's what you get to build when you just give information freely. But you have to ask yourself, like, are you, the reason that these two, like Friday number 2 in January becomes Quitters Day, is because people are not willing to be determined to get there. Like we think we're determined, but we don't have the dedication to be determined. So something happens, I'm like, oh, this is why I can't do this. Oh, this is why I shouldn't have done. Oh, I just need to go apply this thing. And really what you need to do is start off with one service, one thing that you offer, to just put your name out there. And then as you find success in that, as you start to see that that's good, then start to think through some of the other services that you can provide to somebody. And honestly, there's going to be times where you're putting your name out there for 6 to 8 months, and you're not going to see a single customer come into you to your inquiry and say, hey, I really want to use you. But then it's like, well, what value are you offering a community of people? What value are you in the right groups on Facebook? Are you in the right groups on Instagram? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you putting yourself out there? Are you messaging people? Or are you waiting for someone to come to you? I think that is a question that you need to be honest with yourself. Are you waiting for someone to come to you, or are you putting your name out there? Because I'm telling you, like, this year is going to be insanely crazy, amazing, but it didn't start this year that I'm putting my name out there. Like, you're going to start seeing some stuff pop up. You're going to start seeing some stuff go down, and you're going to be like, wow, Janisha, you've had so much success overnight. And it's going to be the 15 years that I've been plugging in and putting in the hard work to get here today. And that's the dedication that, literally, from a conversation I had with a professor who was like, Denisha, if you like in 10 years from now, you're either going to wait, you're going to be there. Like, you're going to be there anyway in 10 years. Might as well do the work now. And I really did. And like, my husband had to remind me of this, because I was like, yeah, it's really been only the last 3 years that I've really been working. And then he's like, no, it has not. Like, you've been working, like you were grinding, putting your nose to the ground and being like, focus, go through school, do what you got to do. And then it was, a different type of grinding into getting the business up and running and getting going, and like waiting and building this, and building a reputation in a community of being reliable and good and really helpful in what I'm valuing, like I'm giving us value. But he reminded me, he's like, it wasn't in the last 3-4 years. It was way further than that. And that's something that, like, you coach people because you had a bad experience with someone who edited for you and like just did a spell check and grammar when you thought they were going to do like this format thing. But then also too, like, you had a bad experience with a company, price wise, with the book that you launched. And so you found a different alternative, and you want to help give people that information. And like, you had a bad experience of how people weren't just offering information honestly, and they were trying to lowball you in prices. And it's like, and then you figured out a way. But now today, like, when you see what's going to pop out this year, you're going to be like, dang, Denisha just gets things handed to her. And I'm going to tell you, you don't see what's happening behind the screen. You don't see what's happening at 11, 12 o'clock at night. You don't see what's happening at 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't see what's happening in my email every single day. You don't see what's happening in my Instagram messages and Facebook messages where I'm reaching out and doing this reach out and doing these things to get to where I'm at today. And I'm telling you, it has nothing to do with motivation, because the motivation has not been there many a times. It has to do with the dedication. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And you can only answer that. Like, first off, what is your purpose? If you want to be a speaker, an author, if you want to get your degrees done, if you want to open a business, if you want to do, you want to be, I don't know, like all the things you could be, there's that purpose. But what is the dedication you're going to do to get to that purpose and to find that you are there? Because it's not going to happen overnight. A lot of people are like, oh, overnight success. Like, you think of like someone like Justin Bieber. Did you realize, like my husband says this all the time, is like, do you realize that Justin Bieber was practicing before he was doing it? He was posting things to YouTube, and like, yeah, it was the right time because YouTube was on the front end and blah, blah, blah. But he didn't just show up there. And that's crazy to me, because sometimes I think like people literally just get lucky, and there's some luck in like being in the right day, right time, right space, doing those things. Yeah, absolutely. But there's the dedication to showing up, because this is something that somebody told me, and I was like, this is your shot. This, like, I'm going to end with this, because I was like, dude, this is crazy. They said, imagine if you didn't show up because you just lacked wanting to go, and you had to kind of push yourself to be there. And I have found that the days that I did not want to go somewhere, that I showed up anyway, those were the days that I got something out of that conversation with someone, or I met someone. I was able to have a conversation about something that I would not have had if I did not show up. So stop looking for the motivation and start getting dedicated to the goal, and ask the hard question. Am I willing to show up if nothing happens for 5 years? Or 2 years, or a year from now? Those timeframes are already going to happen. That a year from now is going to come. 10 years from now, that's going to come. But am I willing and willing to fight for this dedication? And I was on a call today, and I want to read this last thing. I was on a call today, and we're doing some pretty cool things. And a thought came to me from this conversation. It's about mindset. Like, if you believe that it's not going to happen, it won't. It's never going to work. If you feel like it could happen, it might. But if you feel like it'll change you, you will fight for it. You will fight for it. So if you think that this thing that you want to do, if you think that this thing is what you want it to be, are you willing to fight for it? Or if you keep telling yourself, again, if you say it's not going to happen, it won't work. I'm going to be honest. You're not going to get there. You're never going to get to your goals, because you're going to just keep telling yourself it's not going to happen. If you tell yourself that you could, it might. I could do that. That might be a cool thing to have happen. It might happen. But if you feel like this will change you forever, change the direction you're in financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, relationally, whatever that thing is, and you're like, this would change everything, you're going to fight for it. So do not give up. Do not surrender. I feel like I'm quoting a movie, and I don't even know what movie I'm quoting. But do not give up. Keep the determination. Keep going regardless of the result. Keep going, because you're not going to be a quitter today. You're not going to be a quitter tomorrow. You could be, but if you tell yourself like, I don't think it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. Like, guarantee, not going to happen. You're going to walk different. You're going to talk different. And honestly, like, I have a few friends who have said, like, I don't even entertain conversations like that when someone says, nope, not going to happen, because it's super negative and it's really hard to talk to someone like that. I get it. If you think it could happen, it might. If you feel like this is going to forever change you, you're going to fight for it like crazy. So today, every day, go out, find the determination, figure out what it is, go for it. You are going to lack the motivation. You will fail. You will fall on your face. But what are you doing to get you to where you need to go? Because someone out there is going to fight for it a lot better than you are, but you have something to offer. But are you willing to fight for you and what you need in your life? Yes or no? All right. Have a great day, you guys.